Hi everyone, Lilith here. Welcome to another competitive Pokemon video. This time I want to go over, as the title says, the 10 worst fully evolved Pokemon in competitive ADV. Now, obviously, this is somewhat opinion based. However, I am counsel for ADV SU, which is a tier with only 15 legal fully evolved Pokemon. So I think I'm at least somewhat qualified for this. ADV SU had to ban Magby. So, in a tier that had to ban Magby, a baby Pokemon, there are 5 fully evolved Pokemon that are too good for this list. That should just put in perspective how bad all these Pokemon I'm going to be going over are. Now, number 10, we have Sunflora. Sunflora has a 105 base special attack, which is the highest stat of anything we're going to be going over in this video. Unfortunately, that's kind of all it has. Now, typically what Sunflora will do is Sunny Day, Solar Beam, Hidden Power, Fire, and Synthesis, and it'll just try to sweep with the sun. The problem with this is you have to take a hit on the turn you're setting up Sunny Day. Like, nothing's switching out on the turn you set up the sun, because that's pretty much always what you're doing first turn. And with Chlorophyll, you're only boosting a base 30 speed. The fastest Pokemon in the tier is Luvdisc. So, to outspeed everything in the sun, you do need 161 speed, which means you can't even run Modest. You can't really invest much in bulk. Like, this is kind of it for your bulk. And because of that, it's actually really hard to get a sweep going with it. It can happen, and Sunflora is actually pretty good in SU. It's by far the best Pokemon in SU that we're going to be talking about here. In fact, I almost put Spinda on the list instead of it, but Spinda is much more versatile. And really, the problem with Sunflora is just that it's so slow and not that bulky without the sun. And not to mention, fire types are a huge problem for it. Like Growlithe, Cyndaquil. I mean, I guess there's also Torchic, but Torchic's not that good. It just really struggles. And there's a Pokemon that does this better. Weepinbell does not need as much speed investment to outspeed everything. Like, it takes 162. This is all the EVs you need. So you can, like, fully invest. You're not even that much weaker. Although you do have Hidden Power Fire, so like you're not that much weaker, even though the base stats make it look like it. You're bulkier because you can put more EVs into bulk. Well, actually, it's pretty comparable bulk-wise, but you have the Poison type, which helps defensively. You also have Sludge Bomb to threaten fire types. Sunflora does have Sludge Bomb, but it has 75 attack and no stab, so it's not that good. So really, that's kind of Sunflora's problem, is that it's relies fully on the sun, but it is not consistent at getting the sun up. It's a one-trick pony that's fine at its trick in a tier that had to ban a baby Pokemon. So, like, not great, but far better than any of the other Pokemon on the list, such as number 9, Farfetch'd. Now, Farfetch'd is actually interesting because for a while it was really good in ADV SU. The problem is Aeron. Farfetch'd just really does not have a way to deal with normal resists. Like, you've got Hidden Power and that's about it. What Farfetch'd does is it tries to sweep with Swords Dance, and you've got options here. You can run like a Flail set, you can run Double Dance with Agility. There's even like funny, like you can even run like Choice Band or like Salic Berry. That it has options. The problem with it is, I mean, aside from, I mean, its stats are awful for one thing. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. Having your highest stat be base 65, here I'll put in a physical move so you can see the attack stat with the IVs. Like, that's not good. Where it really goes wrong is just all these, like, rock types in the tier are just, like, too much for Farfetch'd to manage. Number 8 is Parasect. Now, we're going to be seeing a lot of bug types on this tier, and Parasect is the least bad of the bug types we're going to be going over. Now, for one thing, Spore would be nice, but Sleep is banned ADVZU and below. So that's off the table. What isn't off the table is having actually pretty decent stats. Like, it has the 5th highest base stat total in the tier. Some floor actually has the highest, but like they're distributed badly. And Parasect's stats aren't distributed that bad. Like, it has decent attack, it's decently bulky, but really where it goes wrong is Bug Grass is one of the worst typings possible. You're 4 times weak to fire, you're 4 times weak to flying, you're weak to rock, you're weak to ice, you're just so many Pokemon, like pretty much every Pokemon in the tier hits Parasect super effectively with something. And that's just a really big problem for a Pokemon that's not fast at all and really wants to be played defensively. Like, it has neat defensive tools like Aromatherapy, like Stun Spore. That's kind of it, actually. Like, its move pool isn't even that great. So, yeah, Parasect is a Pokemon that's really struggling, and just, it's being talked about in a top 10 worst fully evolved Pokemon in ADV video, so, like, obviously it's not amazing. I mean, it's usable in SU. Another Pokemon that's just usable in SU is Luvdisc. Now, you might be surprised to see Luvdisc is only the 7th worst fully evolved Pokemon, because, like, Luvdisc has a reputation for being, like, one of the all-time worst Pokemon ever made. There are 6 fully evolved Pokemon that are even worse than this. It's the fastest Pokemon in SU, and that's where the positives end. Like, all it can really do is run, like, a Subtox set. Like, I sometimes even run Charm to just try and wall physical attackers and be, like, okay at it, but, like, you're not bulky, you don't hit hard, you go first, accomplish nothing, and then die. That's all Luvdisc really does. And yet there's still some stuff that's even worse. Because being the fastest Pokemon in a tier pretty much always means you at least have something going for you. And yeah, Luvdisc is actually ranked B on the current ADV VR, meaning it's in SU proper. It's not like a lower tier Pokemon with a niche. However, what is a lower tier Pokemon with a niche is our 6th Pokemon, Masquerain. It has agility and intimidate and some decently powerful special moves. The problem is bug flying is almost as bad of a type as bug grass. And you're not that bulky, you're not that strong, and you're actually pretty slow without an agility boost. Like, you want to typically run a Pataya Berry. The problem with that is, well, for one thing, status. Like, if you get hit by a Toxic, you're screwed. So you want to fit Substitute, but you can't really replace any of these moves. Like, you need Giga Drain to hit water types. You need Hydro Pump because if you aren't running Hydro Pump, you might as well be running a different special attacker. And you need Ice Beam for grass types. And obviously you need agility to sweep, so, like, you can't fit Substitute is the problem. Like, it could actually be pretty good if it could just magically run a 5th move, so it could run Substitute alongside this moveset. But as it stands, all it really does is, like, intimidate something to get an agility off when they switch out, and then try to sweep. And if you're incredibly lucky, you won't get status, you'll get knocked into Pataya Berry range without needing to use Substitute, and yeah, you can sweep. It's a small niche, but it's at least something. And now, the 5 Pokemon I previously went over all are at least somewhat usable in SU. Some are good, some are okay, some are just somewhat niche. The remaining 5 Pokemon, even in SU, a tier with only 15 legal fully evolved Pokemon, these 5 Pokemon have basically nothing going for them. And the first of these is Butterfree, the 5th worst fully evolved Pokemon in ADV. Now, This is a weird one because Butterfree is kind of a victim of its own success. You see, Sleep was banned in ADVZU. A large part of that is because of Butterfree being an absolute menace. Then it dropped to SU, which also banned Sleep because of Butterfree. So I almost actually didn't include this because it felt kind of unfair because it's bad because the thing that was broken about it that made it good got banned because it was too good. But at the same time, this isn't about like considering these Pokemon in a vacuum. In in any tier in ADV that is played other than like ADV IU, the tier below SU, Butterfree is just bad. Like it's just a bad Pokemon no matter where you go, and so I couldn't realistically not include it. But anyway, what does Butterfree have going for it? Stun Spore and Compound Eyes. And base 70 speed is like good in IU. And that's it. Your your best stab is Silver Wind and Aerial Ace, and that's physical off of base 45 attack. So like all you can really do for damaging moves is non-stab psychic off of like an okay special attack stat. This is just not a good Pokemon no matter how you spin it. There's really no way to justify using it in SU, but like there are 4 Pokemon that are fully evolved that are even worse than this. So number 4, Beautifly. Now Beautifly, I actually went back and forth on whether Beautifly or Butterfree was worse. I think I settled on Beautifly largely because, well, no compound eyes and also because of the slightly worse speed, but Beautifly does hit slightly harder. So, like in IU, there's actually a pretty menacing set you have with Substitute, Slackberry, Psychic, Giga Drain, and then you have Morning Sun to get back up to health once you've procced your Slackberry. And this is actually somewhat threatening in a tier below SU. You take what you can get, I guess, but like at least it's good in a tier below SU. And there are 3 Pokemon that aren't. Okay. I hope you aren't sick of final forms of early route bug types, because the third worst fully evolved Pokemon in ADV is Ladian. Look at these stats. This is just sad. Like, you could switch any of these 2 stats. Like, any pair of stats switch, you make a better Pokemon, I think. Because this special defense is counteracted by this horrible HP. You're also weak to a lot of types because of your typing. Your speed isn't really that helpful. Baton Pass is limited to Dry Pass in every tier where Ladian could even be considered. So, like, the best thing you can do is go first, set up Reflect, and then Baton Pass out. You have, like, Toxic. And I guess Ice Punch off of base 55 special attack is, I mean, I guess you have Focus Punch, but like you have no offensive presence. This is so passive, even in a tier filled with like first form Pokemon. And I mean, you're not even that bulky. You struggle with physical hits. You're fine at taking special hits, but like there are better special walls even in IU. This is a nothing Pokemon. I cannot think of anything good to say about this. Like, even Beautifly and Butterfree, like, I could come up with sets or, like, some positive trait that are even in the lowest of tiers. I cannot think of anything Ladian has going for it, even in a tier. Let me just show you ADVIU. This is the tier. I mean, Ladian has the second highest base set total, but they're distributed so terribly. Like, this is a tier dominated with stuff like Nidorina and Mankey and Baltoy. And this thing is still just so bad that you can't really justify running it. I can't say enough bad about Ladian. But one good thing about Ladian is that it isn't the number 2 worst Pokemon in ADV, because that is unknown. Do I even need to explain why this is bad? You have 1 move, and your stats are terrible. The end. You have nothing going for you. Absolutely nothing. Even in ADV IU, you are outclassed by stuff like Curlia. Like, honestly, the best thing you can do is just take advantage of how few things resist the flying type, actually, and run Choice Band Hidden Power Flying. The problem with that is you have some stuff like Pidgey, which isn't even that good. But, like, Pidgey Wing Attack with Choice Band, you have a lower attack stat and lower base power, but you have Stab. You're hitting less hard than a Route 1 bird. And not even a Route 1 bird, one of the worst Route 1 birds. So, like, why would you ever use Unknown? I mean, it's kind of a stupid question to ask because the answer is you wouldn't. You would run anything else. It's so terrible. Anyway, this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. The worst fully evolved Pokemon in ADV is Ditto. Like, all you do is have to tank a hit. If you survive, you transform into something, and then it's a speed tie of either you take another hit and likely die, or you get off one hit. Also, you're very exploitable because you don't have Imposter. You have to manually transform, which means your opponent can switch out to something that another Pokemon on their team counters. Like, for example, they can switch in a Charmander, you transform into that, and then they switch in a Water type. So, like, you're so exploitable, you have basically no utility, and you're better off just running the Pokemon you're scared of and going for a straight up mirror match than using Ditto to transform into it. Like, Ditto transformed into anything, like even Unknown. Ditto as Unknown is just worse than Unknown. Like, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, Ditto has going for it. And yeah, that's about it. Worst fully evolved Pokemon in ADV is Ditto. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one. Bye.